she walked into the hotel she owned and got thrown out like she didn't belong. What happened next left the entire staff speechless and cost some of them their jobs. In a world where power and appearance often clash, one woman decided to let her silence speak louder than the insults she faced. What began as an act of casual discrimination turned into a moment that exposed deep-rooted bias and revealed exactly who held the real power in the room. This isn't just a story about race or respect. It's a reminder that dignity doesn't ask for permission, and sometimes justice arrives without saying a word. It was just another busy Friday evening at the prestigious Wilshire Grand Hotel, a five-star property known for its sleek architecture, VIP clientele, and luxury amenities. The valet circle bustled with black cars, guests checking in, and staff dressed in crisp uniforms managing the flow with professional ease. Among the crowd walked a woman in her early 40s. Dressed in a simple but elegant black pantsuit, she exuded quiet confidence. Her name was Denise Walker. What most people didn't know, and what none of the staff recognized, was that she wasn't just another guest. She was the CEO and majority owner of the hotel itself. Denise had built her empire from the ground up. Once a single mother working 2 jobs, she had studied hospitality at night, hustled through countless roles in the industry, and eventually launched her own hotel brand, one that had grown into a multi-million-dollar chain. The Wilshire Grand was her flagship. But on this particular night, something happened that would expose just how little progress had truly been made within the walls of even the most inclusive spaces. Denise entered through the front lobby and made her way to the reception desk, unnoticed. She hadn't announced her visit. She liked to do unannounced walkthroughs to see how staff treated real guests. She observed quietly as the front desk manager greeted the guests ahead of her with warm smiles. But when Denise approached the counter, the manager's expression shifted. Cold, guarded. "Can I help you?" he asked with a tone that wasn't so much curious as suspicious. "Yes," Denise replied calmly. "I'd like to speak to the general manager, please." The man raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "That's a matter for him," she said, still polite but firm. The manager scoffed. "Are you a guest here?" "No," Denise said, "but I do have business with this property." That's when it began. He glanced at her up and down, subtly but not respectfully. "Ma'am, unless you're a paying guest, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the lobby. We don't allow loitering." Denise blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, his voice louder now. "Security!" 2 uniformed guards approached from the side of the lobby. Guests began to glance over. The tension was immediate. The guards didn't ask questions. They simply told her she had to leave. Denise, to her credit, didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She simply stepped back, pulled out her phone, and walked outside. 9 minutes later, everything changed. Denise didn't call the general manager. She called corporate. And she didn't explain much. She didn't have to. Within minutes, the call went out to the hotel's upper management. And it wasn't a warning. It was an order. The general manager rushed into the lobby, beads of sweat forming on his forehead as he recognized the woman now re-entering the building, flanked by 2 high-level corporate officers. The same front desk manager stood frozen. She didn't speak to him directly. Instead, she turned to the GM and said simply, "I want a full list of every employee on shift right now, starting with the man at the front desk." There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just silence, broken only by the flurry of action as managers scrambled to follow orders. An hour later, 6 staff members were escorted out of the hotel, terminated on the spot. Not just for what happened that night, but because this wasn't an isolated incident. Denise had long heard whispers from staff about how certain guests were treated differently depending on how they looked. Now she had seen it with her own eyes. Word spread fast, across social media, hospitality forums, even news outlets. Some praised Denise for her swift action. Others criticized her for being too harsh. But Denise stood by her decision. She later issued a statement. "I didn't fire them because I was disrespected. I fired them because if they could treat me that way, someone who owns this place, then imagine how they treat the people who don't have power. That's not the kind of business I run." It wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. In a world where unconscious bias is too often excused, Denise Walker used her platform to make a point, quietly but unmistakably. And she reminded everyone watching that leadership doesn't always wear a name tag. Sometimes it walks in quietly and leaves with a storm. The message is clear. You never know who you're really talking to until it's too late. In a society still plagued by quiet prejudice, stories like this remind us that real change starts with accountability. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video to help more people see the truth behind the image. Because here at Color of Truth, we don't just tell stories, we reveal the world beneath them.